This is Daf Yerushalmi Demai, Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph in the article Ozvah edition, the second line down on the page. Rabbi Avmori, which in the Vilna edition is on Ches Amud Aleph, the two lines up front, where the lines get wide, and it says in the Vilna Amar Rabbi Abba Mori. So it's either Rabbi Mori or Rabbi Abba Mori. So Amar Rabbi Abba Mori, Milayan Rabban Amrin, the words of the following Rabbanan also tell us. Now here it says Kol Aminim, but the Groz Girsa Chaim Kanievsky also goes to this Girsa. Kain Haminim Asurim B'Keisarin. These are the type. So according to what it says in the standard text, it's Kol Haminim Asurim. But according to the Groz Girsa, it's Amri Cain. They said like this. In other words, they said, like we just said in the previous Gemara, that the Dveila in Kesarin is exempt from Meiser. Because what did they say? They said, Haminim Hasurim Be Kesarin, the types that are also Kesarin, in other words, you have to take off the Mai, are Chitim, wheat, pas, bread. I'm not sure what the difference is between wheat and bread, maybe bread of other types as well. Vayayin and wine, mashemen and oil, tzmorim and dates, ha'orez, rice, kamon, and kamon we said yesterday. Oh, what did we say it was yesterday? I forgot already what it is. I don't remember. Whatever we said it was. V'lo parshin dveila. It doesn't say dveila. In other words, it's not specified the pressed figs as among the meaning which are usher. So the Gemara says, no, that's not proof. Begin the Tnisa. From here, there's no proof because the dveila is mentioned in the Mishnah that we take off ma'atzid my b'chol makom, and therefore wasn't required to be specified separately. So the Gemara says, "V'ha tninan." I don't stand. Orez v'kamon. We mentioned orez and kamon in the Mishnah, right? Upar shitun, and here we said them over again, right? So you can't say we lie in the Mishnah if orez and kamon are specified also in this brisa. Have a shaira. It must be that. It was left over deliberately, the vela, and the vela is mutter in kesar. It's considered to be for chutzarts, and therefore you don't have to take off the mai from it. Now the Gemara says harei elu b'shvius heter. Now we're talking about here the issue of Oli Mitzrayim versus Oli Bavel, and we're talking about the species which grow in Kesarin itself. That's a place which is covered by Oli Mitzrayim and not Oli Bavel. So Chachamim decided that areas you have to take a Meiser and Shemitah you have to take a Meiser and observe Shemitah in the land which is owned by Jews, but not land which is owned by non-Jews. And it says that the vegetables which you find in Kesarin and Shemitah, they're heter, and they're meaning that they don't have the Isser of Sfichin. Something which goes wild in Shemitah, Rabbanon answered it. So this, because you might come to deliberately go and say it's Sfichin, it grew wild. So that's only in Eretz Yisrael, not in Kesarin. Okay, so that's where it says, Harei Elu B'Shvi's Heter. What grows wild, the vegetables in Kesarin are as mutter, but during Shemitah, but in B'shar Shnei Shavua, Demai, in the rest of the 6 years, it's mine. You have to take off Chuvas and Maises from Suffolk. So Harei Elu B'Shvius Heter. So during Shemitah, it's mutter, right? Why is that Heter? We're soon talking about even the fields of the Jews. During Shemitah, they should be Shemitah. So where it says Shvius Yisrael Meshamtim during Shemitah, as we mentioned by this land of Olam Mitzrayim, the Jews have to keep Shemitah. The land of Jews is required to keep Shemitah. Vakum Potter. But if the land of a non-Jew is Potter. V'Yisrael va'akum rabim al kutim. So the Gemara says, you know what? If the land it comes from Jewish land, it's we assume that if you come from Jewish ownership, I should say, that if they find vegetables, we assume that those vegetables are not from Shemitah. We assume they're from the 6th year because Israel will keep Shemitah. If they come from non-Jewish lands, they're mutter altogether because there's no din Shemitah in non-Jewish lands in Kesarim. What's the only possible scenario in which they should be usher because of Smichen or because they were a Mishumor or something else during Shemitah? If land belonged to Kutim, to Samaritans. The Samaritans were at that point assumed to be Chayav Shemitah because they were still considered to be Jews, but they didn't keep Shemitah. But so the Gemara, the vegetables which you get in Kesarim, most are going to come either from the land of Israel, in which case they're from Shishis, or from the land of a non-Jew, in which case they're Potter, not from the Kutim, which are minorities, so Zil Basar Ruba, you can go after the Rov. Mai. Conversely, in the rest of the years of Shemitah, it's the Mai. Why is that? If it's from the Jewish lands, Yisrael Matakni. So then the Jews are going to take off Meiser. But Mikhail Meiser is misleading because take off Meiser sounds you shouldn't even read Demai. So that's not true here. Here, even though they take a meiser the same way Jews take off other places, which is Rov Yisrael Masrin. But in that scenario, so then we still have the Gzeir of the Mai. So that's part of it, right? The Yisrael. Va'akum P'turim, right? The non-Jews are Potter. Right? But there we have the Kutim. The Kutim, again, we assume they were Jews at that time, and therefore their produce is going to be chayiv in Mai. So if that's the case, it's going to be more chayiv in the Mai, the Jews and the Kutim, over than the non-Jews, and that's why the Gra changed the Girsa here coming up. He says that the Girsa should be instead of Akum B'turim Yisrael Akum Rabbi El Kutim, it should be Akum B'turim Yisrael the Kutim Rabim al Akum, which obviously means that there's more likely to come from something which is Chayiv in the Mai, and therefore you have to take off the Mai. Ad Hechon. So the Gemara says, Ad Hechon says Moshe Dino Kikisonli and the Mai. So how far is the parameters of the Mai stretch? Pundaka Damuda. Pundaka Damuda. It's the in of the amud of the pillar, I guess. So up to there, Pundaka Retivta, and also from Pundaka Retivta at Kfar Saba. I wonder if it's the same place as the Kfar Saba. But Sidon Vade B'Kisorin, and Sidon, which is obviously not Sidon, which is in Lebanon, but Sidon is definitely in Kesarim. That's one way of interpreting it. But the way and that's the way the Moshe says, although he seems to say that it is the tire with which we're familiar. It says B'tzura Irtzar Badi Kesarim. So he says it's not. It is the same Tzor, and Tzor, even though it's way north, had the same parameters as Kesarim, which would be a little bit difficult. He says that Sidon is a type of vegetable, and he says Sidon is Vadai B'Kesarim. Sidon is not Mai, it's Vadai, because we know it's from Eretz Yisrael, and it didn't grow by non-Jews, and therefore it's definitely considered to me a Vadai. So Vadai Chayv B'Shumas Meisus. so the uh, uh, kukusin and kesarin, harei asurin. The kukusin which are sold in the kesarin, whatever kukusin are there also asur? You know what? Why don't I look in the article and see what these things are? Sorry, I got cut off there for a minute. So the come on, it was cumin. Okay, that makes sense. And kokusin says here is kulchusin. That helps a lot. Okay, so he didn't know what it was either. So the kulchusim and Karnak Kisar, Sulun Kisar, Rel Kisar, Nation Ruben Boy Mehar Melech. Basagam Kar Melech, which is in Eretz Yisrael, and it was considered to be Chayev and Shumas. So Maestros, at least in Demai, perhaps based on the context, Karnak Chaim Kansky, even in Vadai. Rechir Barabba Amar Balvonim, the Bilavanim, white ones. Bilavanim, Bilavanim, that the white ones are the problem, because maybe I do mean the red ones are the problem. So many Kulchusin came in these different colors. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Chi B'Shem, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Hitir Beishan. This is in the Bavli as well. Rabbi exempted Beishan from as not part of Eretz Yisrael. And Piri Yeshua ben Zoris, on the account of the testimony of Yeshua ben Zoris ben Chamev Shai Meir, the son of the father-in-law of Rav Meir, so Rav Meir's brother-in-law. Shammai said, "Ani reisis Rav Meir lokech yerek min agina b'shvius." I saw Rav Meir take vegetable from the garden of Shemitah. It must be therefore that it's not. He wasn't chayshish for sfichin, wasn't chayshish for anything, and therefore Hidra's kula. It must be that the entire area is considered to be not subject to Shemitah. So it's interesting because by Kesarin it seems they at least according to the previous Gemara, they were gozer that Shemitah does apply at least to the fields of Jews, It seems in Beit Shan, even though it also should be the same status, nevertheless, Shemitah did not exist whatsoever. So Rabbi Kanievsky says that since he wasn't Chodesh Spichin, the mayor was a Chodesh, from where we learned that this of Beit Shan place that Ole Mitzrayim conquered, not Ole Bavel, and even though Shemitah is knowing them the Rabbanon, there is no Isser Spichin, and Rebbe took it a step further. And then he said, you know what, we're just going to eliminate Shemitah in this area altogether. So, according to this understanding, I would assume that Rebbe also is Mater Kesarim, even though it's not going to say that yet. They also have to be Mater Kesarim because it should be of the same status. Could be that maybe in Kesarim they were no Egis Spichin, and therefore Rebbe was not Matir there, and they were no Egis Spichin, at least Rebbe was not, and therefore was Matir there, but it should be the same halacha. And that's what the Gemara is about to say in a few moments. Okay, so the Amar Zir said, a person should not do something in public unless he's very sure about what he's doing. So Rav Meir did this in public, so this would seem that he was very sure about what he was doing, and that's what we can learn from this halacha. The Gemara goes on and says, "Ani Omer Osakina Semicheres Lo Hitir Kula." In other words, Ani Omer Osakina Semicheres Lo. Sorry. In other words, maybe Beit Shan is taken from Eretz Yisrael and was conquered by Ole Bavel, and this one he knew maybe he was taking from a Gino which he had known had the crops had already begun to grow from before Shvius, so there's no Isser of Sfichin. Or perhaps it was he knew that this land was from belonged to non-Jews where there's no Isser of Sfichin. So why does Rebbe monitor everything here? So it must be that it must be that it's going back on what Rabbi Zira said. It must be that it would be something where people could make a mistake and think that it's mutter, even though it's not. Rabbi Meir would not have done in public. So if it would have been a special Yinam Yuchedes Lo, then Rabbi Meir would not have done it, because people who saw it, thinking Ma'aser Rav, would come to a mistaken conclusion. So therefore, the Ani Omer also Yinam Yuchedes Lo. No, that's what he could have said. If a person was allowed to do B'tzibur thing, which is Tamul Rabim, so it might be it was no raya, but since a person not allowed to do something Tamul Rabim and Tzibur, so therefore he tears Kula. Therefore he was matir or Beit Shan. The language is a bit choppy, but that is Chaim Kanievsky explains the Gemara. I see in the Bnei Moshe, I think he learns differently. He just leaves it as it's a question, no answer. So the way he learned Bnei Moshe learns it. Adam Ra'asel Bar Hashem Emil Tzibura. So then where it says Ani Yomer, not that that's why I can rely on it, but Ani Yomer also going to say Milcheres Lo Ditir Skula. How could Rabbi Matir? Maybe he had special knowledge about Agina. So according to Bnei Moshe, it's a question, which of course is not answered. According to Chaim Kanievsky, no, it's a statement, because it's also saying to Tamul Rabim. It must be it was not a Ginam Yuchedes Lo, and therefore Rabbi was matir it. Now Rabbi Hitir Beit Shan and Rabbi Hitir Kesarian. So what we said before, obviously, is Rabbi was initially the halacha in Kesarian was different, because the only Mitzrayim status, and Shemitah did apply to the lands of the Jews. Rabbi came and was matir Kesarian, and he was matir all of it because it's only Mitzrayim. And once he started with Beit Shan, he was matir any place of only Mitzrayim. He exempted altogether from Shemitah. Rabbi Yitir Beis Gubrin. We also allowed Beis Gubrin. Rabbi Yitir Kfar Tzemach. Also, that was evidently part of Oli Tzai, not Oli Babel. All these things. Rabbi Yitir Likach Yerek Motzoi Shvius. Rabbi allowed people to buy vegetables right after Shemitah is over, and not be concerned that maybe it was they came from was Svichim, which grew during Shemitah. Okay, so now the Gemara says Rabbi was matir a lot of things here. Everybody scoffed at Rabbi. They said, "Come on, how can you matir all these things?" Amar Lam, he said, "Bovani Dayan, come, let's assess this." See, it says, "V'chiseis Nachash and Nachoshes." Yechezkel was the one. Chizkiel came many years later after Moshe Rabbeinu and destroyed the copper snake that Moshe Rabbeinu had made in the Midbar, because people were following, worshiping it, giving it special powers. So the Chilu Amad Tzadi Moshe Chizkiel Laviro. There's no tzaddik who came between Moshe Chizkiel who could have done away with the Nachash Choshes. El Osa Tori Nichlo Kodesh Baruch Lisater. But Hashem left him that crown that he should be adorned with it. And we HaTorah Zos Hiniach HaKodesh Baruch Hu Lanu Lisater Ba. It's very similar to the Bavli, only it's much more elaborate here. It's Bavli, it's Mokon Yichul Lanu Lisater. Here it's Torah. So in other words, there's a certain hashgacha, which Rebbe is saying, which is that someday there should be accomplishments which are left to later generations, even though which should have been done in previous generations. So the accomplishment of being matir or Mitzrayim on the basis of seeing Rabbi Meir eating the sfichim in Beit Shan, that was something which was left to as a crown for Rebbe to be misater. No, Rebbe wanted to be matir other things, but there's some things they didn't listen to him, like he wanted to be Yoker Tishbav when it came out, when it's Nichad to a Sunday. But there was obviously these things were a Torah, the one that were separate, a Torah which were left for Rebbe, which he then became his tiferes, his Torah. Again. Um, the Torah was Aterba. So we have here a fascinating Gemara coming up. Rabbi Shimon Levi have a mafkid litzlaya. He used to tell the youngsters. Shimon used to tell the youngsters. Pretty much says either his people who served him, maybe his children or his talmidim. Lotis bin liyarik elamin kinsa desisya. Only buy me vegetables from a certain place, Miuchedes, right, which is the Gina of Sisya. Sisra. Maybe it's called into Sisra because known for the days of Sisra didn't belong to the Jews. Coming me as Zochalatov. So your Navi Zochalatov came to him, and he said to the child, said to the kid, Zil Mother Rabach, go tell your Rebbe, Leis Hadag Ginsa the Sisra Didoy Hava? Wasn't this Gina Sisra not actually non-Jewish? That you can assume that whether that Shemitah that there no that there's no chiyuv Shemitah there. It was a and they killed the Jew and they took it from him. Now the next line is there's two different girsos here. So one girsa is the way we have it in the Gemara. I want to check the article has the same girsa. Yeah, so where we have in the Gemara and the article, although there's certain changes, not this, it says, "In boy machmiras al nafshach ishtay lechavrach." If you want to be machmir yourself, but you have to be matir for other people. So he says that, according to the way Moshe explains it, he says, if you want to be machmir yourself and not take from other places, fine. But you should know the Rebbe was matir all these things, and Rebbe you can rely on Rebbe. So this land, which was, or the rest of the land, evidently, which is again a land around Gina Sisra, was land which was from Oli Mitzrayim, not Oli Bavel. So Leonov is saying, you know what, you can be machmir yourself, not take from the other land, but allow it for other people, not be machmir for them. Now there's another girsa here, which is brought by the Ridbaz and Nambudi Yerushalmi, which is voice machmar nafshe ishtave lechavrach. It means to, and that's girsa kesa Mishnah. And according to the Ridbaz, it means that tell it to your friends. So that means that he's saying that, you know what, if you think there's a legitimate chumrah, you have to tell other people to be machmir as well. So don't be machmir yourself and not tell other people. They should also be machmir. So he said the Amudei Yerushalayim brings down interpretation according to that girsa. He really goes with the girsa of our Gemara. He says that you should be matir for them, and not even if you want to be machmir yourself. But the Amudei Yerushalayim brings down a pshat that from the Marit, I think, that it means that Ishtavi Chavrach means that you should not be different than them. You should be mako like them. Unlike the Ridbaz says, you have to tell them to be machmir as well. The way the Amudei Yerushalayim interprets it is, it brings down from the Marit, is that you should not be more machmir than them. Ishtavi Chavrach, be equal with them. Okay, that's a problem because, as the Marit himself points out, in that case, what does it mean? In boy machmir son nafshach, right? It's well, I guess it's not such a problem. In boy machmir son nafshach, even you want to be machmir, don't be mako. Let's see how Reb Chaim learns it. Yeah, he brings down Ishtabi Chavroi. So he says the gears of the Gra, and he says, "In boys machlo nafshach." You want to be want to not you use Rebbe's heter, so no, don't do it. Ishtabi Chavroi. Uh, no, then then Chavroi learns here is not your friend, not your friends, but the friends of the field. Then if you want to be machmir, then machmir all the other fields, because you don't know. Yeah, so this one, you made a mistake. It says it really was a field which was belonged to a Jew, and then was taken over by a goy. So therefore, if you're going to be machmir, if you're going to be, you're making a mistake. If you're and you never know which field was actually belonging to a Jew and then was taken by a goy. So if you don't want to use Rebbe's heter, you have to be machmir on this field, and just like machmir all other fields. Okay, again, because other fields you know that they belong to Jews. This one you thought didn't belong to Jews, it did belong to Jews. Now it's conquered by non-Jews. So if you're machmir them, you have to be machmir on this one as well. Make make this field equal to its friends, the other fields. So all different interpretations here. But again, the simple shot is in our girsa is that you're wrong because anyway this field actually did belong to a Jew. But and if so, the point being that if you want to be machmir on yourself and say that you only take from certain fields which you know, at least you think you know, never belonged to a Jew, belonged to a Jew, they never were conquered by Olam Mitzrayim. Don't tell anybody else to be machmir because you never know which fields are conquered, which not, and therefore just go, they should be go with Rebbe's heter, the Torah which he was misater both to be matter everything.